The taste of success turned bitter in Sofia Martinez's mouth as she stared at her best friend's empty chair across the restaurant table. Lily Chen, her closest confidant since their playground days, had stood her up for the third time this month. The champagne she'd ordered to celebrate her promotion sat untouched, bubbles slowly dying in the golden liquid. "Would you like to order now, ma'am?" the waiter asked, his practiced smile failing to mask his pity. Sofia checked her phone one last time. No messages. No calls. Just the same "read receipt" under her text from 2 hours ago. "No, thank you. Just the check, please." Her voice remained steady, but her hands trembled slightly as she gathered her purse. 20 years of friendship didn't just evaporate without reason. They'd survived college in different states, boyfriends who came and went, and even that disastrous spring break in Cancun where they'd sworn never to speak of the karaoke incident again. But this felt different. The promotion to senior project director at Turner & Associates should have been their shared victory. Lily had been there through every late night, every crisis of confidence, every small win that led to this moment. Instead, she'd grown distant, her usual warmth replaced by clipped responses and avoided glances in the office hallways. Sofia's heels clicked against the marble floor of the upscale restaurant as she made her way out, each step echoing with growing unease. The spring evening air hit her face, carrying the scent of blooming cherry blossoms that lined the corporate district. She loosened her silk scarf, suddenly feeling suffocated by the weight of unspoken words. Her phone buzzed. For a moment, hope fluttered in her chest, but it was just another congratulatory message from Mike Thompson, her new boss. "Looking forward to seeing what you'll bring to the table, Sofia. The Morgan account needs your touch." The Morgan account. Their biggest client, and her first major project as senior project director. She should have been ecstatic, but something nagged at the back of her mind. Hadn't Lily mentioned working on a proposal for Morgan & Sons last month? A text finally came through as she reached her car. "Sorry. Couldn't make it. Dealing with stuff." Lily's message was as cold as the evening breeze. Sofia started typing several responses before deleting them all. Instead, she did something she hadn't done in weeks. She drove to Lily's apartment. They needed to talk, face to face, like they always had when things got rough. The familiar brick building loomed ahead, its windows reflecting the setting sun. Sofia had spent countless evenings here, sharing wine and secrets, planning their futures, and supporting each other through every crisis. But tonight, something felt off. Lily's car was in its usual spot, but the windows of her third-floor apartment were dark. Sofia pressed the buzzer, once, twice. No response. She was about to leave when the building's door opened, and Mrs. Rodriguez, Lily's elderly neighbor, stepped out with her tiny poodle. "Oh, Sofia. Haven't seen you in ages, dear. Looking for Lily?" The old woman's eyes held a hint of concern. "She's been different lately. Ever since that day she came home early from work, crying. Must have been, let's see, right around when they shut down her project." Sofia's blood ran cold. "What project? When was this?" "About 3 weeks ago, I think. Poor thing was devastated. Kept saying something about betrayal and, what was it? Oh yes, corporate theft. I tried to bring her some of my famous arroz con pollo, but she wouldn't open the door." The pieces started falling into place, each one landing like a punch to the gut. 3 weeks ago. Right before Sofia's promotion was announced. Right before Mike Thompson had praised her innovative approach to the Morgan account. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a company-wide email about the upcoming corporate party. The subject line read, "Celebrating Innovation, Turner & Associates Spring Gala." Innovation. The word felt like ash in her mouth as she remembered fragments of conversations with Mike about incorporating fresh ideas and building on existing concepts. How had she been so blind? The sound of heels on concrete made Sophia turn. There stood Lily, grocery bags in hand, her face hardening at the sight of her oldest friend. The bags crinkled as her grip tightened. "What are you doing here?" Lily's voice cut through the evening air like ice. Sophia started, but the words died in her throat as she saw the mixture of pain and anger in Lily's eyes. In that moment, she realized their friendship wasn't just cracking, it was about to shatter into a million pieces, and she wasn't sure if any amount of superglue could put it back together. Mrs. Rodriguez and her poodle quietly retreated, leaving the two women facing each other in the growing darkness. The weight of unspoken accusations hung between them like a storm about to break. The grocery bags hit the ground with a thud, oranges rolling across the concrete like escaped prisoners. Neither woman moved to pick them up. "Congratulations on the promotion," Lily spat the words like venom. "I heard the Morgan presentation was brilliant. Revolutionary, even. Tell me, Sophia, did you enjoy it? Presenting my work as your own." Sophia felt the blood drain from her face. "Your work? Lily, what are you talking about? Don't." Lily raised her hand, stopping Sophia mid-sentence. "Don't you dare stand there and pretend you don't know. 3 months of my life, Sophia. 3 months of research, innovative strategies, market analysis, all gone. And suddenly, magically, you're presenting the same concepts to the board." The pieces were falling into place with sickening clarity. Sophia remembered Mike's unusual interest in her casual conversations about Lily's project, his leading questions during their coffee breaks, the way he'd guided her presentation prep with surprisingly specific suggestions. "Lily, please, let me explain." "Explain what?" "How you stabbed me in the back. How you used our friendship to get ahead." Lily's voice cracked. "I trusted you. I told you everything about my project over lunch, during our wine nights. I was excited to share it with my best friend. And you took it all." Mrs. Rodriguez's poodle barked from somewhere above, the sound echoing in the tense silence that followed. Sophia stepped forward, her heel crushing a fallen grape. "I didn't know," she whispered, then stronger, "Lily, I swear to God, I didn't know." "Mike Thompson." "Of course. Blame it on Mike. It's always someone else, isn't it, Sophia?" Lily laughed bitterly. "Just like in college when Sarah's boyfriend suddenly became interested in you. Just a coincidence, right? Or when you got that internship I told you about before I could even apply." The accusations hit Sophia like physical blows. "That's not fair. Those weren't fair." Lily's voice rose. "You want to talk about fair? I poured my heart into that project. It was my chance to finally move up, to prove myself. And now?" She gestured wildly. "Now I'm being transferred to the Denver office because my recent performance hasn't met expectations." Sophia felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "Denver? They can't do that. Let me talk to Mike, I can fix this." "Fix this?" Lily stepped closer, her face inches from Sophia's. "Like you fixed my project? Like you fixed my career? The board meeting is in my calendar, Sophia. Next Thursday. The one where you'll present the full strategy, my strategy, to Morgan and Sons. Tell me, did you even change the font on my slides?" A car alarm went off in the distance, making both women jump. Sophia reached for Lily's arm, but her friend jerked away as if burned. "Don't touch me. Don't call me. Don't text me. 20 years of friendship, gone, because you couldn't stand to see me succeed." Lily bent down, gathering her scattered groceries with shaking hands. "I trusted you with everything, Sophia. Everything. And you used it all against me." "Lily, please," Sophia's voice broke. "Just let me explain. This isn't what you think. I would never. Save it for your next presentation." Lily straightened, clutching her damaged groceries. "I'm sure you'll find a way to spin this too. You always do." She turned toward the building entrance, then paused. "You know what the worst part is? I actually believed you when you said we'd always have each other's backs. What a joke." The door slammed behind Lily, leaving Sophia alone in the growing darkness. Her phone buzzed, another email from Mike Thompson: "Quick meeting tomorrow morning to review the Morgan presentation. 8 a.m. sharp. Bring coffee." Sophia stared at the message, her vision blurring with tears of rage and betrayal. The pieces were all there: Mike's unusual interest in her lunch conversations with Lily, his specific suggestions that now felt like stolen goods, the way he'd rushed the promotion through HR. She'd been played like a puppet, and worse, she'd unknowingly helped destroy her best friend's career. The taste of success from earlier that evening turned to bitter ash in her mouth as she realized the true cost of her promotion. A light went on in Lily's apartment. Through the window, Sophia could see her friend's silhouette, shoulders shaking with what could only be sobs. She raised her hand, almost touching the cold glass of the building's door, then let it fall. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. Mike Thompson's smug face would be waiting, probably ready with another stolen idea, another manipulation. Sophia's hands clenched into fists as she walked back to her car. She had a choice to make: her career or her conscience. But first, she needed proof. The night was young, and Turner and Associates' office building never really slept. Her key card would still work, and she knew Mike's habit of leaving his computer unlocked. It was time to find out exactly how deep this betrayal went. The office building's lobby felt different at night. Sophia's heels echoed through the empty marble halls as she made her way to the elevator, her security badge clutched tightly in her trembling hand. The night guard, Ron, barely glanced up from his crossword puzzle. She'd stayed late often enough that her presence raised no alarms. "Working late again, Ms. Martinez?" His casual question nearly made her jump. "Just forgot some files for tomorrow's presentation," she managed, forcing a smile. Her heart thundered in her chest as she stepped into the elevator, pressing the button for the executive floor. 25 floors. That's how high she'd climbed in Turner and Associates. 5 years of late nights, missed family events, and sacrificed relationships, all for what? To become an unwitting accomplice in destroying her best friend's career. The elevator doors opened to darkness, broken only by the dim emergency lights. Sophia moved quietly through the familiar layout, past rows of cubicles where she'd spent countless hours. Her old desk was still visible from here, now occupied by some fresh-faced graduate who'd probably look at her with the same admiration she'd once had for her superiors. Mike Thompson's office stood at the corner, its glass walls offering a panoramic view of the city lights below. Sophia paused at his door, memories flooding back, all those private meetings where he'd praised her potential, the coffee runs where he'd subtly probed about Lily's project, the late-night strategy sessions that now felt like interrogations. The door opened smoothly, executive privileges meant no locked offices. Mike's desktop computer hummed softly, its screensaver casting a blue glow across his immaculate desk. Of course he'd left it on, he always did, claiming it took too long to boot up in the morning. Sophia sank into his leather chair, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Was she really going to do this? One wrong move and she'd lose everything she'd worked for. What would Dad say, she whispered to herself. Her father, a construction worker who'd spent 30 years building other people's dreams, had always told her, "Majida, your integrity is the only thing they can't take from you." The computer woke with a touch. No password prompt. Mike's arrogance extended to his cybersecurity practices. Sophia's hands shook as she opened his email, then his cloud drive. Folders upon folders of project documentation filled the screen. There, Morgan & Sons 2025 strategy. She clicked, and her stomach turned. Draft after draft of presentations, each one evolving from Lily's original concepts. Track changes still showed Lily's name on early versions, systematically erased and replaced with Sophia's in later documents. But it was worse than that. As Sophia dug deeper, she found more folders: Chen project analysis, competitive strategy review, implementation timeline. Every detail of Lily's work had been documented, dissected, and repurposed. Email threads between Mike and the board showed his careful manipulation, presenting Sophia as the innovator while systematically undermining Lily's contributions. A new email notification popped up, making Sophia's heart stop. From Mike Thompson to the board. Final review of Morgan strategy complete. Sophia's presentation Thursday will position us perfectly for the Q3 expansion. Regarding Chen's transfer, Denver office has confirmed. We'll position it as a promotion to avoid any potential issues. Legal has cleared the strategy, all original work properly attributed to current leadership team. Sophia felt sick. She quickly forwarded key emails to her personal account, hands trembling as she documented everything. The magnitude of the betrayal was staggering, not just of Lily, but of every principle she'd thought the company stood for. A noise in the hallway made her freeze. Footsteps. Sophia quickly closed everything, returning the computer to its screensaver state. She slipped behind a filing cabinet just as the cleaning crew passed by, their cart squeaking softly on the polished floor. Once they were gone, Sophia emerged from her hiding place, her mind racing. She had the proof now, but what could she do with it? Going to HR seemed pointless, they'd clearly already signed off on this scheme. The board? They were complicit too. Her phone buzzed, a message from Mike: looking forward to our morning meeting. Bring the final presentation draft. Time to make history. Sophia stared at the message, rage building in her chest. She thought about Lily's tears, about the casual way Mike had orchestrated this whole betrayal, about her own unwitting role in it all. Her hands clenched into fists as she made her decision. The elevator ride down felt longer than the ride up. Ron was still at his crossword puzzle, but now he looked up with more interest. "Everything okay, Ms. Martinez? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Just realized something important about tomorrow's presentation," she replied, managing a weak smile. Outside, the night air had turned cold. Sophia sat in her car, staring at the building that had been her dream workplace for so long. Tomorrow's meeting wasn't just about a presentation anymore, it was about choosing what kind of person she wanted to be. She pulled out her phone and scrolled to a contact she hadn't used in years: James Chen, Lily's brother, an investigative reporter for the city's largest newspaper. Her finger hovered over the call button as doubt crept in. This would mean the end of her career at Turner and Associates, possibly in corporate America altogether. The phone felt heavy in her hand as memories flooded back, Lily and her sharing dreams on her brother's treehouse, making pinky promises about always protecting each other, believing that their friendship could survive anything. Sophia pressed call. It rang 3 times before a groggy voice answered. "James? It's Sophia. We need to talk. It's about your sister." 8 a.m. arrived with the subtle menace of a circling shark. Sophia stood outside Mike Thompson's office, 2 coffee cups in hand, her usual peace offering turned psychological warfare. Through the glass walls, she could see him at his desk, scrolling through his phone with casual arrogance. The night had been sleepless, filled with rushed conversations with James Chen and frantic documentation of everything she'd discovered. Her printer had churned out page after page of damning evidence, now safely stored in multiple locations. The originals sat in her briefcase like a ticking bomb. "Sophia." Mike's voice boomed as she entered. "There's my rising star. Tell me you've got that presentation ready to knock their socks off." He reached for one of the coffee cups with his usual entitled grab. "Actually, Mike, we need to talk about the presentation." Sophia remained standing, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Specifically, about where these ideas came from." Mike's smile flickered for just a moment. "We've been over this. Your innovative approach to the Morgan account is exactly why you deserve that promotion. Speaking of which, I've got great news about your bonus structure. Stop. Sophia placed a folder on his desk. I know about Lily's project. I know what you did. The change in Mike's demeanor was subtle but immediate. His smile remained, but his eyes turned cold. Careful, Sophia. You're heading into dangerous territory. Am I? Like the territory of stealing someone's work and forcing them into a transfer when they object? She opened the folder, spreading out printed emails and documentation. Or maybe the territory of manipulating two friends into destroying each other's careers. Mike leaned back in his chair, studying her with new calculation. You accessed my private files. It wasn't a question. That's grounds for immediate termination. Probably legal action too. Like the legal action Lily could take when she learns how systematically you stole her work. Sophia pushed forward the email showing his careful documentation of Lily's project. Or maybe the legal action the board might face when they realize they approved fraudulent strategy proposals. The board? Mike laughed, but there was an edge to it. Who do you think approved this approach? Business is business, Sophia. Ideas belong to the company, not to individuals. Lily's transfer is a promotion, better salary, better title. She should be thanking us. Thanking us? Sophia's voice rose. For stealing her work. For gaslighting her into thinking she was failing. For using her best friend to do it. Mike stood slowly, his height meant to intimidate. Let me explain something about corporate America, Sophia. Success isn't about who has the ideas, it's about who knows how to position them. Lily had good concepts but no executive presence. You have the whole package. I did you both a favor. A favor? Sophia pulled out her phone, displaying the recording app. Mind repeating that for clarity? Mike's face darkened. That's illegal. So is intellectual property theft. Sophia stood her ground. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to cancel Lily's transfer. You're going to acknowledge her work on the Morgan account. And you're going to step down, quietly, with dignity, citing personal reasons. A dangerous smile spread across Mike's face. Or what? You'll destroy your own career too. Because that's what happens when you play whistleblower, Sophia. Nobody wins. Nobody hires troublemakers. Maybe. Sophia moved toward the door. But I've got a meeting with the board in an hour. And unlike the Morgan presentation, this one's all original material. Mike's chair scraped back as he stood. The board won't see you without my approval. And if you try to go around me, I'll make sure the only job you can get is serving coffee, the kind you won't be able to use as a weapon. The board might not see me, Sophia agreed, but I'm pretty sure they'll see James Chen's article in tomorrow's paper. Lily's brother sends his regards, by the way. He's very interested in corporate ethics these days. The color drained from Mike's face. You're bluffing. Sophia pulled out her phone again, showing him the draft article James had prepared. Want to bet your career on that? I'm sure Morgan & Sons would love to learn how their potential partner handles intellectual property. You stupid little, Mike started forward, but Sophia was already opening the door. Emergency board meeting in an hour, Mike. Your choice whether you want to get ahead of this story or be buried by it. She walked out, legs shaking but spine straight. Behind her, she heard the crash of something hitting the wall, followed by creative profanity. Her phone buzzed, a message from James, article ready. Give the word. Another buzz, Lily, why is HR calling about canceling my transfer? Sophia took a deep breath, heading for her office. She had 1 hour to prepare for the biggest presentation of her life, and this time, every word would be her own. The elevator opened, revealing Sarah from HR clutching a stack of papers, her face pale. Sophia, Mr. Thompson wants you in the main conference room. The board, they're all here. Emergency meeting. Sophia gripped her briefcase tighter. The game was on, but Mike had just changed the rules. The question was, had he called her bluff, or was he desperate enough to try to destroy her before she could speak? The conference room doors loomed ahead like the gates of Judgment Day. Through the glass, she could see them all, the board members, Mike, and unexpectedly, Lily, looking confused and angry. Time to face the music, but who would be left standing when the song ended? The conference room fell silent as Sophia entered. 12 pairs of eyes tracked her movement, the board members in their expensive suits, Mike Thompson with barely contained rage, and Lily, whose expression flickered between confusion and lingering betrayal. Board Chairman Richard Wallace cleared his throat. Ms. Martinez, Mr. Thompson has brought some serious allegations to our attention. Unauthorized access of company systems, threats of defamation, attempted corporate extortion. Interesting list, Sophia interrupted, her voice surprisingly calm. Should we add intellectual property theft and fraudulent business practices to it? Or would you prefer to hear about systematic harassment and forced transfers first? How dare you, Mike started, but Sophia was already moving, connecting her laptop to the projector. 5 years ago, when I joined Turner & Associates, I signed a code of ethics statement. The first slide appeared, the company's values statement. Innovation, integrity, accountability. Tell me, Chairman Wallace, does stealing an employee's work and giving it to another fit those values? These are serious accusations, Ms. Martinez, Wallace's voice held a warning. Choose your next words carefully. Sophia opened her briefcase, distributing folders to each board member. Everything in these folders is documented with emails, timestamps, and file histories. But let's start with Exhibit A. She clicked to the next slide, Lily's original project files, complete with metadata and creation dates. 3 months ago, Lily Chen developed a revolutionary strategy for the Morgan account. Innovation that could have transformed our market position. Sophia glanced at Lily, whose eyes were now fixed on the screen. Mr. Thompson took a special interest in her work. Had multiple private meetings. Requested regular updates. Mike's face had gone from red to white. This is ridiculous. The board doesn't have time for. Page 3 in your folders, Sophia continued. Emails showing how Mr. Thompson systematically documented Lily's ideas, then gradually integrated them into what would become my presentation. Page 4 shows how he manipulated performance reviews to justify her transfer while fast-tracking my promotion. The board members were flipping through pages now, murmurs of concern growing louder. Wallace's comfortable smile had vanished. Ms. Chen, he turned to Lily, are you familiar with these documents? Lily stood slowly, her hands shaking as she held up the papers. These are my original proposals. Every detail, every strategy point, even my personal notes from client meetings. But how? She turned to Sophia, understanding dawning in her eyes. Because I found them all on Mike's computer last night, Sophia admitted. After you told me about your transfer, after I finally understood what had happened. He documented everything, probably to protect himself if questions ever arose. That's enough. Mike slammed his hand on the table. This is corporate espionage. She broke into my computer, accessed confidential files. Which you left conveniently unlocked, Sophia cut in. Just like you conveniently had lunch meetings where you pumped me for information about Lily's project. Just like you conveniently suggested specific slides for my presentation, slides that came directly from her work. Wallace raised his hand for silence. Mr. Thompson, is there any truth to these accusations? Mike straightened his tie, composure returning. Everything I did was for this company's benefit. Chen had the raw material, but Martinez had the presentation skills. I simply ensured our best ideas reached the right audience through the right messenger. The right messenger? Lily's voice cracked. I worked 60-hour weeks on that project. Missed my father's surgery. Cancelled my vacation. All while you were planning to steal my work. Business isn't about fairness, Mike snapped. It's about results. The board understands that, don't you, Richard? After all, this isn't the first time we've had to make strategic personnel decisions. A heavy silence fell over the room. Sophia clicked to her next slide, a broader analysis of project reassignments over the past 3 years. No, it isn't. 10 other employees had their projects mysteriously reassigned after sharing details with management. 7 were transferred to remote offices. 3 resigned. All their work was redistributed to preferred employees who then received promotions. Board members were whispering now, some looking distinctly uncomfortable. Wallace's face had turned to stone. There's more, Sophia continued. Page 12 shows how this pattern extended to client billings. Creative redistribution of billable hours, project costs mysteriously shifting between accounts. The Morgan presentation wasn't just about stealing Lily's work, it was about hiding a systematic pattern of fraud. That's absurd, Mike laughed, but it sounded hollow. Richard, you can't seriously. What I can't seriously do, Wallace interrupted, is ignore documented evidence of financial manipulation. Especially not with the SEC already investigating similar cases in our industry. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mike's face went from white to gray. Speaking of investigations, Sophia pulled out her phone. James Chen, Lily's brother and an investigative reporter, has a very interesting article ready for tomorrow's paper. Complete with interviews from those former employees who were so conveniently transferred. You're bluffing, Mike whispered, but his eyes darted to Wallace. Sophia dialed James's number on speaker. James. You're on with the Turner and Associates board. Would you mind sharing your publication schedule? Gladly, James's voice filled the room. Stories set for tomorrow's front page business section. Corporate corruption and cover-ups, the dark side of innovation. Unless, of course, there are any last-minute developments worth adding. Wallace stood abruptly. Mr. Chen, if you could hold that story for 24 hours, I believe we'll have some significant updates for you. He turned to the board. I move for an immediate executive session. Ms. Martinez, Ms. Chen, please wait outside. Mr. Thompson, stay. As Sophia gathered her materials, she caught Lily's eye. The hurt was still there, but something else had replaced the anger, a glimmer of understanding, maybe even forgiveness. Outside the conference room, the 2 women stood in silence, listening to the raised voices within. Sophia's phone buzzed, a message from James, ready to pull the trigger if needed. You okay? Before she could respond, the conference room door opened. Sarah from HR stepped out, her face grim. Ms. Martinez, Ms. Chen, the board would like to speak with you about your futures at Turner and Associates. 1 year later, Sophia stood at the podium of Turner and Associates' annual leadership conference, her voice steady as she addressed the packed auditorium. Innovation isn't just about new ideas, she said, catching Lily's encouraging smile from the front row. It's about integrity. About giving credit where it's due. About building each other up instead of tearing each other down. The audience, mostly new faces after last year's corporate cleanup, nodded in agreement. The company's very public reckoning had led to widespread changes. Mike Thompson's departure had been just the beginning. The board's investigation had uncovered years of similar schemes, leading to multiple resignations and a complete restructuring. That's why today, I'm proud to announce our new ethical innovation initiative, Sophia continued, gesturing to the screen behind her. Led by our new head of strategic development, Lily Chen. Applause filled the room as Lily joined her at the podium. The 2 women shared a knowing look, so much had changed since that confrontation in the boardroom a year ago. The board's decision that day had been swift and comprehensive. Mike Thompson was terminated immediately. Chairman Wallace, facing pressure from both the board and potential media exposure, had opted for early retirement. But most importantly, they'd offered both Sophia and Lily new positions, with the explicit mandate to reform the company's approach to innovation and employee development. "Thank you, Sophia," Lily took the microphone, her confidence evident in every word. "Our first initiative focuses on collaborative development. No more silos. No more hidden agendas. Every project team will have clear attribution guidelines and protected intellectual property rights." After the presentation, they retreated to what had once been Mike Thompson's corner office, now converted into a shared innovation space for project teams. The view of the city was the same, but everything else had changed. "Remember when you first came to my apartment that night?" Lily asked, handing Sophia a coffee, their old ritual restored. "I was so angry, so hurt. I really thought you betrayed me." Sophia took the coffee, remembering the weight of those accusations. "I almost lost you, lost everything that really mattered, because I was too blind to see what was happening." "But you fixed it," Lily reminded her. "You risked your career to make things right. That's why they chose us to lead this initiative. We lived it." Sophia's phone buzzed, a message from James Chen, "Story on Turner and Associates transformation running tomorrow. Interview still on for lunch. Your brother's really milking this corporate reform beat, isn't he?" Sophia laughed, showing Lily the message. "Well, his first story did win a journalism award," Lily grinned. "Though I think he's more interested in that new HR director he met during the investigation." They moved to the window, watching the sunset paint the city skyline in shades of gold. The Morgan account, their first truly collaborative project, had been a massive success. Their joint presentation, with clear credit for Lily's original concepts and Sophia's strategic additions, had set a new standard for corporate transparency. "You know what I realized?" Sophia said quietly. "Mike was right about one thing: success isn't just about having good ideas. But he was wrong about what really matters. It's not about who can take credit. It's about who you trust to have your back." Lily touched her arm. "Speaking of trust. Dad's surgery follow-up is next week. I was thinking, maybe you could come with me. Like old times?" Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. A year ago, she'd almost lost this, the quiet moments, the unshakable support, the kind of friendship that survived even the worst storms. "Remember our old pinky promises?" Lily held out her little finger, just like they used to do in grade school. "Partners in crime." "Partners in everything," Sophia corrected, linking their fingers. Their moment was interrupted by a knock. Sarah from HR, now Director of Employee Relations, stood in the doorway. "Sorry to interrupt, but the new mentorship program candidates are here. 20 young women, all ready to learn about ethical leadership from Turner's dynamic duo." Lily and Sophia shared a smile. They'd made it their mission to ensure no other ambitious young employees would face the toxic choices they'd encountered. The mentorship program was their way of paying it forward. "Send them in," Sophia said, straightening her jacket. "We've got some stories to tell." As the eager faces filed into the room, Sophia caught Lily's eye. They'd lost their way once, nearly destroying 2 decades of friendship over corporate politics. But in finding their way back to each other, they discovered something more valuable than any promotion: the power of standing together, of choosing integrity over advancement, of rewriting the rules instead of playing by the broken ones. The sun set over the city skyline, casting long shadows through the office windows. But inside, the future looked brighter than ever. Sometimes you had to weather the darkest storms to find your true north. And sometimes, Sophia realized, watching Lily begin their presentation, the best revenge against a broken system wasn't bringing it down, it was building something better in its place. "Welcome to Turner and Associates," they said in unison, facing their men's. "Let us tell you about the real meaning of innovation.